don't know the look I'm going for. I think I'm just gonna take this off. Yeah. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, and welcome if you're new. I'm so glad you are here to join me and hear my testimony. Bruh. Okay, so this morning I woke up not planning on doing this video. God spoke to me and was like, you're doing a testimony. And I was like, yep, okay. Legit, like, someone had DM'd me the other day and asked me, can you do it on your testimony? I would love to hear it. And I'm like, my response was like, oh, that's really sweet, but I think I'll probably do one of those in the future. I think God's still working in my life and I'm growing and all that, yada, yada, yada. And then I thought about it and I'm like, wait, God is constantly working in my life and he's going to continue to work in my life and I'm going to continue to grow. So it's like, there's never really a right time. First of all, this is what I want to say straight off the bat. The word Christian and the religion Christianity, to me, makes me cringe. Literally makes me cringe. I can't stand the word Christian, and I'm sure some of you can relate to this, Christian or not, because it's been so tainted and misused. And in history, you see in the past Christians and how they've done evil things and misused the name of God. And in current day, people claiming to be Christians, and they are just so not a good representation of what Christ is. I like to say I am a believer. I'm a believer in Christ, and I have a relationship with Jesus. But I totally understand why people can't stand the Christians and the church and all of that, because I can see from all sides. So that I want to say first and foremost. Growing up, I dealt with a lot of frustration, and I'm sure like you or some of you see people and how they act and claim to do one thing and do another. I've talked about my father in the past, and I definitely don't want to sit here and continually bash him, but you know, and I'm so far beyond that right now that all that hurt, that it, you know, it's not like I'm in that pain or I hate him, or you know what I mean? Like, I don't. Although there were a lot of good times, there was a lot of dysfunction. There were so many people in my life that I've seen go against God and kind of like misuse the word Christian. And there was a lot of extremists that I saw, a lot of stuff in the church that went down that was messed up, a lot of stuff in my school, in my home, that was very controversial and very like conflicting and not right. So the frustration for me was just like, I can't stand people who are extreme and people who claim something so passionately and go completely against it. So for me growing up, although I had the faith and the relationship with God, I saw a lot that was just not good. Like, I'm sure most of you have. So like I said, I don't want to bash my father, but at the same time, I have to explain my story. So although he, you know, he loved me, I think the best that he could, he suffered with a lot of mental issues. And I think anger, he had a rough childhood, and there's no excuse for, you know, the things that happened, but, you know, he wasn't all there, I guess. He was the type of person that claimed to be Christian and would even go out in the street and like preach the word and make these really elaborate things and signs and just like kind of creepy stuff that he would proclaim to be a Christian and, you know, Jesus saves, and then you know, the next day would come home and verbally abuse my mom and, you know, break things in the house and scream for hours, and it was just unstable. And like, when I tell you this man would do things in public and 2 seconds later get arrested. I think a couple times where the cops had to take me home because of his temper or because of his behavior, and it was just so unhealthy and strange. You know, like I said, there were times that were good and there were times that he loved us the way he should, but it was hard for him, and I still loved him, but there was just a lot of unhealthy things. You know, as time went on, when they got a divorce, I was the youngest, so my mom had to be the father and the mom, and she had to work 2 jobs, and she was just like such a solid rock for us. But yeah, so I was just frustrated with internally, and I luckily didn't allow those circumstances to change my like belief in God. I still had faith. I think that was because of my mom. Just growing up, the people around me were just all, I think, confused and hurt, and kind of living their life in a way they thought was the best. And for me, I think I was 13 years old, and I made a commitment to God. I said, you know, I see how everyone else is living, and it's not turning out good. It's not turning out good. So I want to be different. I want to live my life in a way that's pleasing to you, Lord, and your will rather than mine. And I know in my heart of hearts that if I do that and I live in an obedient way and I continue on your calling in life, everything's going to work out. And with that, Lord, I ask that the desire of my heart is fulfilled, and that desire is to find a husband, a man who is going to be my husband and I can build a family with and have an actual healthy marriage and a healthy relationship and a family, and to be happy and to serve you. And I want to meet this man, you know, in my late teens, early 20s. And if I do this for you, Lord, I want that in return. That's basically what my prayer was. And I felt very strongly and passionately about that as young. I think I was 13. And I knew in my heart that God gave me that promise. And anyway, I guess that year, next year, I met Danny, and he was 15. I was 14, 13 going on 14, 14 going. Yeah, I was 14, almost 14. And it was puppy love. We were just attracted to each other, whatever. And that lasted just, you know, throughout school. And after that, we'd broken up and it was silly. Fast forward to high school, junior high, high school. I'm so bad at this. So in high school, we had rekindled everything. We were more mature, obviously still attracted to each other. I think what started it was I was at my friend's house and we had pranked called him at night, and we ended up talking for hours. The next night he called me, and we just were on the phone all night. I knew that there was something about him that was very unique, and the qualities he had, although he was very wild and he had a rough life, and there were a lot of things about him that needed to be changed and needed growth, like anyone, and there was a lot about him that was rebellious and damaged from his past. But there was so much in him that I saw that I just loved. And I saw such potential. I saw his heart and all the qualities that he has deep down inside. I saw it, and I literally, like, I knew just that he could be my husband, and it was just the craziest thing. But at that time, he actually was dating someone that wasn't in our school. And so as our friendship kind of blossomed, we fell in love, basically. And so the beginning start of our like real relationship was on a rocky foundation, and it wasn't perfect, and it was flawed, and you know, that was kind of a complicated situation. Even though we were younger, it still wasn't really, there was just a lot that wasn't right with us. We're going to pause me and Danny. We're going to kind of shift gears to what kind of happened in my high school. Another to go along with hypocrisy and just people misusing God. And so I kind of am like a little hesitant to talk about this because it's a very sensitive subject for some people, and it might strike a chord with you if you're watching and you were involved in this, or you went through this situation, or you've been through something similar. But it did affect me as well, and I just feel like I have to talk about this. our youth pastor and teacher, our choir, drama director, a friend, counselor, like this man who was in the school, in the church, was just like this awesome guy. We loved him. We really loved him. Everyone did. All the students just adored him. He was awesome. He just was such a strong man, like very talented, very wise, we thought. His sermons were amazing. Just everything. We really looked up to him. And a lot of the females especially were like, oh, this is a man of God. Like, there's men like this out here, that they exist and stuff like that. And down the line, we find out that this man who is married, by the way, he ends up having an affair with multiple girls from the school that are underage. One being a classmate friend of mine, not my best friend, but a friend that was in the class. Literally shocked. We were so taken back. I had absolutely no idea. Absolutely no idea. It was like such a gut-wrenching thing. And to think back on all those sermons and all those like Bible lessons and all those great memories and stuff, like it was the craziest thing, and so much heartache and so much pain and so much damage he did to so many, I think, students, his family. I was definitely very hurt and affected by it, but God gave me the strength throughout that to be strong and wise enough to not, be mad at God about it. But, these people in these positions are capable of anything, and anyone is capable of anything, So, yeah, that a lot of stuff went down. In churches. And so I totally, totally get why people don't like Christianity. So that was a huge thing in my life that affected, the way I look at things as well. And at that time period, I was with Danny, and he had been in college. So that first year had passed. We were great. We were close. The year after that, so another thing was stripped from me. He had cheated on me in college, and not just once. It was really a whole messed up situation. And so I literally was devastated. This is a promise God gave to me that God reassured me multiple times too. It wasn't just like, oh, I'm going to marry this man and I see past his flaws type thing. Like, I knew in my heart of hearts that I was going to marry this man. So thinking, oh, I was right out of high school, as soon as I graduate, like, we're getting married, and especially trying to hold back from sex and stuff. Like, I'm like, oh, I'm going to be blessed. Like, I'm going to get married. It's not that uncommon for people to go to college and, move on or do things and stuff. But was just so torn at the fact that my life, my future, what I saw was like not going to happen, or possibly like not happening. So I was just heartbroken. I was just so devastated and so upset and confused and frustrated in my life, and wondered why I had to go through all this stuff, But the years went on, and I still held firm on my belief. I still, by the grace of God, kept my faith. And I believed in my heart that this was the man I was still going to marry, but I just felt like, in the times where I didn't have that faith, God would reassure me in some way. He would send me something, someone would speak to me, a Bible verse would come up, like something would happen that I would be reassured. And no one in my life believed me. No one, I don't think. They really believed like I was crazy and let it go, move on. And I literally had to be quiet and pray and pray and pray every night for God to work in his life, for God to change him. But I had a lot of growing to do too. And God was working on me in the meantime. So finally, what brought us back together years later, that initiated it, was he had basically a near-death experience. He got sliced on his temple, and you know, I don't know where else. He was basically cut by a gang, and he was rushed to the hospital, and that's when I found out. Someone had told me, and so immediately, like, my heart, you know, like, no matter what this man did to me, I love him, and he's in the hospital, you know. I was so concerned, so I reached out to him, and like, he was miraculously living. But that's kind of like where we started off, to start to rebuild things. And even still, throughout that time, a lot of things he had to work on, a lot of growth, a lot of issues. He was doing the wrong things in the wrong direction, kind of. But, you know, I still had love for this man, and I still believed in my heart I was going to be with him. The consequences of decisions we've made, and, you know, just our history and our past, things kind of had to come out and was unfolded in our lives, and if that makes sense. So there was just a lot that had to be done, and a lot of growth between us before we could get married, you know. And even still, we had to kind of rebuild everything. And up until basically like our engagement, there was still just so much there, and so much damage that needed a lot of work. So we rebuilt a lot of things, and a lot of trust, and a lot of time had to pass, and a lot of trust had to be regained. But the whole time, what I kind of talked about in my article was basically, it wasn't until me and Danny literally said we have to be in complete accordance with God, and are completely obedient to God in every way in our relationship, that God finally turned everything around, like, miraculously. Because we were kind of one foot in, the other foot out, struggling, doing things we shouldn't do, kind of just like not on track, but wanting to be, and our hearts were in it. And we loved God, and we had, you know, our hearts were for God, but there was just so much involved, and so many things that had to be worked out. So up until then, you know, like, up until we had made the decision to just be abstinent and be pure and do everything possible necessary for God, for God's will, for us, so that we can be one, so that we can do what God wants, and God can use us, and God can change us. And everything turned around, and that's the real blossoming of our relationship. We finally got engaged, you know, everything's kind of worked out. We were going to move to Jersey, he ended up coming here, things started to work out. He had changed his whole career path. Literally everything changed. And what's crazy is that this man, his heart, if you knew his story, which is a whole other insane story, and the things he's been through, the things that has happened to him, and the man that he is today, you would just be in awe, because he is such an amazing man with such a past, but he's got such a beautiful heart and such a beautiful soul, and such intelligence and such character. And I adore him. I love him. He's just amazing, and he's everything that God intended a woman to have. He's everything that I wanted in a husband, everything that I've asked for in a husband, and what I prayed for, and the desire of my heart. Look, we're not perfect, and we have flaws, and we have things that we are constantly working on, but all in all, what the relationship that we have is everything that I had pictured and more. But anyway, back to, I wanted to bring up the pastor and my father, and, you know, kind of all this random stuff, because things in my life really were damaging. Were either I was stripped from things, I saw something, and then it was completely like different from what I thought things were going to be, how they were going to end up, kind of completely were not what God's plan was for my life. All of that damage and all of the hurt and pain that happened to me and to others in my life were necessary for me, and allowed me to see that I can't put any of my value, my faith, my trust in any human, any man, any pastor, any father figure, any man that I love. My security and my faith has to be in God, because man is going to fail you time and time and time again. See, the thing is, there's a lot of bad circumstances that people go through, people were born into, that they didn't ask for. And a lot of circumstances that change and turn out the way you don't think that they were going to pan out to be. And a lot of people that you trust or love or care about that will let you down. And sometimes in a really shocking way, in a really hurtful way. And God really protected me in my heart throughout everything. And I had an amazing mom who was so strong and firm in her faith, never wavered her faith. She's one of those people that she doesn't lie. She just tells you how like it is. She has faith like I can't even tell you. And she's very wise, and she did what she had to do for us growing up, working 2 jobs and being the mom and the dad, and she was a little hard on us, definitely, but she had to do that. And I wouldn't, change that. And I'm so grateful for that, because if I didn't have her in my life, I don't know how it would turn out. My testimony is basically this, to anyone who is struggling, and to anyone who is a Christian or not even a Christian, that what I believe in is not a religion. It's a relationship with Jesus. It's a relationship, an ongoing relationship. It's not about going to church. It's not about your works. It's not about, anything other than the fact that you have a relationship with God and you're constantly working on that. 2, that you can never ever put all of your faith and trust into man, because humans will let you down over and over and over again. God is literally the only thing and the only foundation that you can put all of your faith and all of your hopes and dreams and trust in, and he will be faithful time and time and time again. And lastly, that God is bigger than your circumstances, and God is bigger than anything that you're going through. He can change people, he can change circumstances and turn them around for the better, and he will make beauty from ashes. And I know it's very hard to trust in something that seems so far out there, when everything around you and the people you love have hurt you, and people in the church have hurt you and misused the name of God. But you can't put your faith in them. They're humans. Humans are messed up and flawed, and I'm flawed, and my husband's flawed. There is not anyone who's no one is perfect, and everyone's going to have their own issues, their own temptations, their own secrets. The devil is lurking constantly, and to have value in these people or these things, even like a family member, you can't. You have to put your faith in God. He is the only one who will be there and pull you through every circumstance. So, I love you guys so much, and I hope that this was refreshing to hear, inspiring, makes you want to think about your faith and maybe ask God to reveal himself to you and help you forgive those who've hurt you, and even the people in the church, because they are human. They're not God. God is not that. And God can do just such amazing things for you, like he's done for me. So I love you guys. Comment your thoughts. Subscribe if you're not. And I'll see you in my next video.